Joining me now is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. Ambassador Whitaker, good morning. President Trump set a Thursday deadline for Ukraine to agree to this plan. And for Secretary Rubio, he's saying he's very optimistic that a deal could be reached by the end of the week. Ambassador, how likely is it that we actually see a tentative deal by then?
Nick, first of all, it's good to be with you. And I just want to say we're as close to peace in Ukraine as we have been since the war started. And some might even argue since the Crimea invasion in 2014. So, obviously everyone in the national security apparatus and the Trump administration is working as hard as possible to get to a deal that both sides can agree to. Because again, you're not going to have a peace deal that Russia doesn't agree to and that Ukraine doesn't agree to. And obviously both the EU and here in NATO all have pieces and parts of any plan that's going to be done. So, I don't know if Thursday is the deadline or not. Secretary Rubio has been pretty clear that substantial progress was made over the weekend. I take that as great news, and obviously he and the president are going to make the final call on what the deadline is. But if we keep making progress, why would we give up on peace?
Ambassador, you've also heard the criticism. You're not operating in a silo. You know that there are those who feel as though Ukraine is almost in the position of with King Solomon, that they have to do more of the giving up than Russia does.
Yeah, I hear that criticism, but at the same time, we're also talking about a negotiated deal that happened over the weekend. The last 3 weeks have been substantial in getting a framework, and at the end of the day, I reiterate what I said at the start, which is both sides are going to have to agree to any deal. Now, does that mean that if they don't agree to a deal, that the United States has to be involved at the table and doing the things that we're doing right now? It doesn't. And so President Trump is mediating this situation. He's putting pressure on both sides like a good mediator does. And ultimately, I think we're going to get a good outcome. But this is why you don't insert yourself halfway into sausage making process and object to what's happening. I mean, this is we're in the middle of the deal being hammered out, and there's a lot of voices. But at the end of the day, President Trump is the only person that can bring both sides of the table and hammer out a deal. And
that is absolutely true. Ambassador, you also talked about how the right deal is one where everyone's a little bit uncomfortable on both sides. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he would draw a line at giving up territory to Russia, that is the main problem in this plan. Is the U.S. open to a plan that doesn't necessarily cede Ukrainian territory to Moscow?
Well, to be honest with you, Nick, it's not about what the United States wants. Ultimately, it's a deal that both Ukraine and Russia can agree to. And, we'll see as these negotiations continue as to whether we can get a deal that both sides are willing to engage in. But, I think the United States has significantly brought a lot to the table, both through the Russian sanctions that were implemented, together with, selling weapons to our NATO allies to be ultimately provided to Ukraine. And so the United States, is continuing to be a positive influence in this, continuing to engage both sides. And ultimately, let's not only pray for peace, but right now we're rolling up our sleeves and we're trying to hammer out a deal.
And Ambassador Whitaker, nothing would be better for the holidays than to bring an end to this 3-year war. Ambassador Matt Whitaker, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Good to see you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.